We probably ain't got room. We probably have to upload, but.
Right now we got room. Anyway, we are reacting to this video.
Batman has been around since the year 1939, that's over 80 years ago, and Robin has also been around for over 80 years, and it didn't take the dynamic duo very long after they debuted in the comics for them to debut in live action for the first time. All the characters in the Bat family and Batman mythos weren't so lucky, and I thought I would make a video idea where I would look over every single character in the Batman mythos, which includes all of the Bat family members, all of their love interests, all their support characters, and all of their individual villains, and see when they debuted in live action for the first time, as well as the gap between their comic debut and their live action debut, how long it took them to debut in live action after they debuted in the comics. And then we'll see, out of all the Batman-related characters, which one took the longest after their comic debut to finally appear in live action for the first time. With all that out of the way, let's begin, because we have like 100 characters to go over. So let's not...
Okay, Ma. What Batman character do you think took the longest debut to appear?
Catwoman?
You failing, definitely.
Harley Quinn?
I don't know. Your choice is Catwoman? I'm gonna say... gotta think here. Your choice is Catwoman or Harley Quinn. My choice is... You can choose one more person.
Poison Ivy.
Okay. My choices are going to be... Let's see! Bane. Killer Croc. And Victor Zsasz. You did the females, I did the Bruce and the Weird Fox.
Not waste any more time. So in the year 1943, they released a Batman serial, which didn't introduce very many characters for the first time in live action, but we do see Batman and Robin. This is 4 years after Batman's comic debut, where he's played by Lewis Wilson, and for Robin, it's only 3 years later, played by Douglas Croft. I should also mention that while we do see Dick Grayson as Robin all the way back in 1943, we don't see him as Nightwing until the year 2019 on Titans, played by Brenton Thwaites. Alongside Batman and Robin, we also see Alfred Pennyworth debuting in live action the same year he debuted in the comics, played by William Austin, as well as a little-known character and love interest for Bruce Wayne, Linda Page, who debuted 2 years after she debuted in the comics, played by Shirley Patterson. A sequel serial to the first 1943 Batman one...
Okay, so right now, Alfred has the shortest appearance span. Only 1 year.
Called Batman and Robin was released 6 years later in 1949 and saw the live-action debuts of James Gordon and Vicky Vale. James Gordon debuted 10 years after he debuted in the comics, and Vicky Vale was only 1 year after, played by Lyle Talbot and Jane Addams, respectively. So then there's the 1966 Batman TV show, which introduced a lot of Batman's rogues gallery into live action for the first time. So going in order of the episode release, we're starting with the first episode, which showcased the Riddler, 18 years after his comic book debut, played by Frank Gorshin. The Penguin.
Fun fact, in season 2... okay, I'll go for the Riddler stuff. He was paid good in season 1, but he wasn't paid too good for season 2, so they replaced him with the dude who played the dad in Addams Family. I don't know the dad's name, I forget, and I don't remember the actor's name. But that's why the 60s Riddler had a mustache for some period of time. Then in the first season, they added in the Superman villain Puzzler for a Riddler episode, since they try to get Frank back but he wouldn't. But then after that one episode, he came back for the rest of the first season. So yeah, and no, the Puzzler, even though he was a Superman villain in the comics, did not act like anything in the comics. I don't know if the Puzzler is going to be in this video or the Superman video that the guy did, though. Because some people tend to forget about the original version of Puzzler. But anyways, even though he had the name Puzzler, he was nothing like the comic book character with the same name. Aside from liking board games and stuff. He didn't even really do puzzles in the comics. He should have been called the Game Master. Now we gotta wait for Mom to come back. She's back now, people.
Yeah, I didn't die on the toilet.
So we can see more of your beautiful face. With your ugly ass green hair right now.
Appeared in episode 3, 25 years after his comic book
looks
debut, played by
ugly in
Burgess
here.
Meredith. The Joker debuted for the first time in live action in episode 5 of The Batman Show, 26 years after his live action debut, played by Cesar
23
Romero.
years.
Episode 7 saw the debut of
There
Mr.
we go. I'll go Joker Green.
There you go. Fun fact with Cesar Romero Joker. I'm gonna have a lot of fun facts of some Jokers.
You might as well say what you're going to say about me going Joker Green first and then get into your fun facts.
It's not that. Nothing about that. That's okay. I don't care. Whatever. It's your hair. Anyways, since Cesar Romero, I also sub other characters. 2 of them. But anyway, Cesar Romero didn't want to cut off his mustache, so they poorly painted over it to where you can still see the mustache. Also on this show, for this universe, and because they also had a live action movie, so for the movie and 2 seasons of the show, there were 3 different Catwomans. For the show, there were 3 different Mr. Freezes, who, this is the show, okay, Batman the Animated Series is what gave Freeze his backstory about his wife, but this is the show that gave him the name Mr. Freeze. In the comics, he was named, before he was called Mr. Zero, he was. And he didn't have a backstory. So, yeah.
Freeze, 7 years after his comic debut, played by Craig Sanders. It should be noted that in the Batman show, they actually made changes to both his civilian name and his supervillain identity. His civilian name was changed to Dr. Shivel, something that didn't stick at all, but before the show, he was actually called Mr. Zero in the comics, and this show gave him the name Mr. Freeze, which was later incorporated into the comics and stuck until today. But the first proper Victor Freeze was played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in Batman and Robin. The Mad Hatter debuted in episode 13 of this show.
I will be back.
No, not that. You wanna know the killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! That's cold. Freeze! Also, fun fact. This is technically not the real Mad Hatter. It is, but it ain't. It's the real one for this universe. But this is based off of Imposter Mad Hatter. Because there was a time where Mad Hatter didn't care about Alice in Wonderland and would care about collecting hats. Later on, they revealed that that was a imposter Mad Hatter, and then they just started calling him Imposter Mad Hatter, which then they just started calling him Hat Guy, or Hat Man. So the more you know. Also in this universe, in the 1960 show, Mad Hatter and the Clock King are brothers. In the comics, though, they're not, and Clock King was originally a Green Arrow villain. Most people were mad though, but they thought that the animated series made Clock King a Batman villain, when this show is what made him a Batman villain.
18 years after his comic book debut, played by David Wayne, the Basile Carlo
he appeared
version
in the
of
same
Clayface
comics
debuted
as
in
Vicky
the
Bell.
17th episode of this show, 26 years after his first appearance in the comics, played by Malachi Throne, but it should be...
Fun fact, in the show, he's called Falseface, and he made clay faces, but they fixed that later on. Let me explain. He looks like that for the movies as well. But in the comics, we get a reference to another Clayface, Matt Hagen, and the Mud Pack, which is the team that Basile Carlo was on with all the other Clayfaces. But in the 1960s Batman comics, that were released in like 2020 something, which is called Batman 66 and Wonder Woman 77, they give an actual Clayface version of Basile.
Noted that he's actually called Falseface in this show, and he doesn't have the clay powers. He only has the shape-shifting of being able to look like other people. Another version of Basile also appeared on Gotham, but he also only had the shape-shifting abilities, and no version of Clayface has ever appeared in live action where he has his entire arsenal of superpowers.
That'd be like more of a movie
thing. In episode 19,
thing.
Catwoman debuted for the first time 26 years after her comic book debut, played by Julie Newmar.
She did not look that way
in the 11th episode of the second season, 6 years after his comic book debut, played by Walter Slezak. And it should be noted that Clock King's name here is changed to Morris Tetch, and he's the brother of the Mad Hatter. The debut of an actual William Tachman, aka Clock King, didn't happen until the year 2014 in the second season of Arrow. Then there's also Batgirl, the only member of the Bat family who is introduced.
Her first appearance would technically be her second appearance on set, because they had an unaired pilot called Batgirl, and the villain, and it was introducing Batgirl. This was actually Penguin enter Batgirl, but I don't know what the unaired pilot or episode is going to be called. But the villain was going to be Killer Moth, who was going to be let's just say he has bad time with live action, because this was unaired, and it was featured, I believe, on the DVD or Blu-ray or both box sets of the Batman TV show DVD collection. But since, like I said, Killer Moth had a bad time in live action, but not only did that get canceled, he was also going to be a villain in the Batgirl movie, which got, guess what? Canceled, even though it was basically finished. So, yeah.
In this show, where she's played by Yvonne Craig, and this is the same year that she debuted in the comics. We didn't see her as Oracle, however, until the Birds of Prey 2002 show, played by Dina Meyer. Finally, there's Killer Moth. He didn't actually technically debut, as he only appeared in an unaired Batman Season 3 episode, but if he had debuted there, it would have been 16 years after his debut.
I mean, I can still count it, since you can still watch the episode, as long as you have the DVD set. Now she's gonna go look at
stuff. He's trying to get out.
Who?
It's you. It's him climbing on his roof. That's the shaking that I heard.
Who?
I was trying to figure out what the noise I heard was.
Okay. Anyway.
In the comics, played by
Killer Moth was originally made to be an anti-Batman. So instead of taking down criminals, he would help them.
He's over here hunting the flies or something. The fuck is that? Oh, you?
Yeah. Anyways.
Tim Herbert. But if we ever see an actual live-action in the future, which we haven't since, then I would say that it probably replaces this one as the actual live-action debut. Skipping ahead to the year 1979, they released the Legends of the Superheroes TV special, which saw the debut of a couple of Batman-related characters.
I believe you can get on
DVD. There's Solomon Grundy. It's questionable whether he's actually a Batman Rogues Gallery member, but he...
Okay. That is questionable. I would say kinda. Like how I say Clock King is kinda. I don't count him as a Batman villain since he fully because he was technically originally a Green Arrow villain. Like how Grundy was technically originally a Green Lantern villain and didn't start becoming a Batman villain, I believe, until the 2000s. Also, people say that Batman stole them. No. Okay? You think about this. Just because Batman fights them in some comics, and the hero who were they mainly fighting haven't fought them since, that's like saying Superman stole Joker because Joker appeared in some Superman comics. But I still count Grundy kind of as a Batman villain.
And in Gotham, so I'm including him here. He debuted 33 years later after his comic book counterpart, and he was played by Mickey Morton. There's also the Huntress, the Helena Wayne version of the character, which is also the original,
who is a Earth 2 character. To where, on that Earth, Batman and Selina Kyle...
Is she a Pink Lantern?
No.
Because that looks like a lantern outfit.
No. She's not a Pink Lantern, that's just her costume.
What is she then?
Her name is literally the Huntress. She's not supposed to be after an animal.
Oh.
I think she got the long ears on her mask because... It's a cat.
Basically, cats hunt prey.
Yeah. Her mother was Selina Kyle, father was Bruce Wayne, and in the original version of Earth 2...
Okay, now I understand it. Catwoman's her mom. Now I get it.
But anyways, on the original version of Earth 2, Batman and Catwoman settled down and got married. Eventually, they got killed. Robin was also still a hero during that time because they made Earth 2 the Golden Age comics, so Batman's first appearance and Superman's all that stuff. I will explain. She don't know about there's multiple Earths in the DC universe.
I know there's multiple Earths.
But that's the Golden Age. The Silver Age is Earth 1. Bronze Age would be...
I don't understand what they all mean and what they all do. Mm-hmm. But I understand they exist.
Yeah. Bronze Age would be mainly New Earth and some other ones. Nowadays is Prime Earth and some other multiverse Earths.
Just like there's planets that are alive.
Yeah, the Green Lantern planet. That's an actual lantern. And it's a living planet. I forget the name of it though. I used to know the Oa. Nope, that's the home of them, but not the planet's name. The planet had a name. I forget it. I used to know it. And now I'm sad. Yeah, I don't know it no more. Fuck. Lego Batman 3 is what got me to remember the goddamn planet's name. And no, I don't remember the fucking name no more.
I don't know. It's used in the story, but I don't know it.
What story?
The Divine Chronicles.
Oh, okay.
It's written in there somewhere.
Okay, but anyways, we go back to this.
Daughter of the Earth 2 Bruce Wayne, as well as Selina Kyle, and she debuted 2 years before this in the comics, and she was played by Barbara Joyce.
Also, going against her father's rules, she kills people.
Skipping ahead another 10 years to 1989, we have the Michael Keaton Batman movie, which actually surprisingly showed us the origin story of Bruce Wayne for the first time on screen. That means Thomas Wayne, Martha Wayne, and Joe Chill all appeared for the first time 50 years after their comic book counterparts, which is the longest gap that we've seen so far. Harvey Dent also debuted in this movie, played by Billy D. Williams. We never see this version of Harvey Dent as Two-Face, and the first time we ever see Harvey Dent...
Actually, we do see him as Two-Face, just not in live action. In 2020-something, they made 2 comic book sequels to the Tim Burton Batman 89 Universe movies. Because they some people say that Tim Burton has his own universe, and Joe Schumacher has his own universe, and which takes some elements from the first two movies, and other people just put them together. So I will explain the whole universe. Okay, if you want to do the all put together, then it'll be Batman 89 and Returns with Forever and Robin, and Batman and Robin. And then you have the one where, if you wanted to, you could add in the Birds of Prey TV show, because some of the costumes look the same. And there's also the other universe where some people connect the Titans TV show, same also with the Batwoman TV show. I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah, and also I agree that those TV shows could be in a version of the 89 universe. Then you have the Joe Schumacher universe, which has two stuff before Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, non-canonly. I mean, they were never, but some events before those two movies in this universe would take part from the 89 and Returns movies. And there was also the unaired Batman Unchained movie. Then you have the Tim Burton universe, which is 89, Returns, Batman 89, which is the comic book series, and then Batman 89 Echoes, which is the other comic book series. And then you have the movie adaptation series, which is just comic book adaptations of 89, Returns, Forever, and Batman and Robin.
As Two-Face in live action is played by Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Who basically
Speaking of
did
Batman
Joker.
Forever, we're skipping to the year 1995 since no new characters debuted in Batman Returns.
No new characters from the comics, because Max Schreck and his son, Chip Schreck, were original characters for that movie. Same as King Tut and Egghead, and a whole bunch of other villains for the 1960 show, who were later on put into comics. So yeah, the more you know. She didn't know that about Egghead or King Tut until I told her that they weren't put in comics after that show.
However, we have the debut of Sal Maroni 53 years after his comic book counterpart debuted, which is the biggest gap we've seen so far.
Sal Maroni is a mob boss who hired Tony Zuko in the original version of Dick Grayson's story to kill the Flying Graysons, which was then retconned to where it was revealed that Tony Zuko wasn't trying to kill the Flying Graysons, but just Dick himself to get money. And also, it was also retconned to where Sal Maroni never hired Tony Zuko, and Tony Zuko was just his own mob boss.
Ladino, and he was never called Sal Maroni, but he was called Boss Maroni, which is close enough for me. We're going to break that record really quickly, as John and Mary Grayson also appear in this movie 55 years after their comic book debut, as this is the first time we see Dick Grayson's origin story on screen. 2 years later, in the year 1997, Batman and Robin came out, which introduced 4 new Batman characters in live action for the first time. There are the villains, Poison Ivy, played by Uma Thurman, 33 years after her comic book debut. There's Bane, who only debuted 4 years after his comic book debut.
The one everyone hated.
Played by Jeep Swenson,
because all he did was grunt and go,
Venom, or post-Venom version of the character. He's also given the alter ego Antonio Diego. He doesn't have a name in the comics. There's also Nora Freeze, who debuted 5 years after not her comic book debut, but her debut, which was in Batman the Animated Series. And finally, a new record breaker of the biggest gap in a character named Julie Madison, who was an early love interest for Bruce Wayne, who debuted 58 years after she debuted for the first time in the comics. Now that we're in the 21st century, things are going to be ramping up quite a bit, as there are other not Batman-related franchises.
Yeah, damn. Bruce Wayne I realized he had a lot of love interest over the years.
He does. This is the last video.
Movies and TV shows
Probably.
where Batman-related characters do debut, and this is going to be especially apparent in the 2010s. For the 2000s, we're starting with the Birds of Prey show, which came out in the year 2002, and introduced 3 Batman villains for the first time in live action. Most importantly is Harley Quinn, debuting 10 years after her debut, not in the comics, but in Batman the Animated Series.
It's sad because this show only had 1 season because it wasn't ready for its time. Harley was the main villain of the first season. Don't know if she's gonna be the main villain of the whole show, but it was revealed in flashbacks that Batman wanted to kill Joker, but didn't, and just knocked him out, and then he got sent to a place far away from Gotham. Joker did. And Harley basically had a whole bunch of villains. Most of them were original characters for the show to try to take down the heroes. There were only, I believe, 2 other characters who were non-original characters, which was Preston Payne. No, not Preston Payne. Preston Payne's son. A version of Clayface. I forget which one. It wasn't the 3rd one. It's the 4th one, I believe. The 4th male Clayface. And Lady Shiva, I believe.
And here she's played by Mia Sara. There's also another version of Clayface called Cassius Payne, who debuted only 4 years prior in the comics, and he's played by Kirk Boltz. Finally, there's Lady Shiva, who debuted in episode 8 of this series, 27 years after her debut in the comics, and she's played by Sung-Hai Lee. The Dark Knight trilogy saw the debut of a good amount of new characters, but all of them except for one appeared for the first time in Batman Begins, and there are no new characters who debuted for the first time in The Dark Knight. So, in the year 2005, in the movie Batman Begins, we have Barbara Keane with a 54-year gap, as well as her son, James Gordon Jr., with an 18-year gap, but we only ever see him as a child. Then there's also Commissioner Gillian Loeb with an 18-year gap as well as Morgan Freeman with a 26-year gap. And there's also a couple of villains.
He messed up there. He said Morgan Freeman. When he meant Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman is the actor who plays Lucius Fox. I mean, to be honest, in any movie with Morgan Freeman, I just think he's playing himself. That's how good of an actor he is.
He plays himself hundreds of times then?
Yeah. We're starting at movies, not all of them. But we're starting at ones.
In this movie for the first time, and one of them will hold
Did you know he played God?
Of the biggest gap between their debut in the comics and live action. There's Carmine Falcone with an 18-year gap.
It's not Falcone, it's Falcone.
Ra's al Ghul with a 35-year gap. And the record holder Scarecrow, who debuted 64 years prior to this in the comics. So that brings us to the 2010s, when things start to slow down in terms of how quickly we go through the years, because there are a lot of characters who debuted the first time in live action in this decade. So we're starting with the 10th season of Smallville, which saw the debut of Deathstroke and Deadshot. For Deathstroke, that's 30 years after his debut, and for Deadshot, that's 60 years later. Now, for Deathstroke, there was actually a character named Deathstroke who debuted in the 90s in the Lois and Clark TV show, but his name was Earl Gregg, and also the alias Bob Stanford.
Some people claim that they have, but I don't know.
Adaptation of Slade Wilson. Also, on Smallville, he's never actually called the Deathstroke, so the first ever Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, was actually Manu Bennett on Arrow in the first season, although he wasn't called Deathstroke until the second. Then there's The Dark Knight Rises, which saw the live-action debut of Talia al Ghul 41 years after her first appearance in the comics, and also technically kind of an adaptation of a character named Holly Robinson, who is a Catwoman supporting character, her close friend and sidekick, but she's given a different name here. She's called Jen, and I don't really know if we could count it. If we do, though, it's 25 years after she debuted in the comic. Arrow Season 1 premiered in the year 2012, and it's pretty well known. While this is a show that doesn't focus on any Batman characters, it does have a lot of Batman characters in it. The first of these to debut on Arrow was actually Helena Bertinelli, aka the Huntress, who was kind of a Batman character, but only really because the first Huntress was the daughter of the first Batman, and that was Helena Wayne. But she's barely really.
Honestly, after the whole Infinite Crisis storyline, the DC Universe got rebooted, which means that some characters were still around, like Helena Wayne. But also, it kind of fucked up the whole universe and made another Huntress, who was Helena Bertinelli, who was the daughter of a mob boss who killed her husband or boyfriend. So then she killed the whole mob family and was tracked down both by Batman and Green Arrow. I'll unpause that once I get me a drink again. So, yeah. So she has a history with both heroes, Batman and the Green Arrow. She also had a I don't know if it was just, I don't know if it happened in the comics as well, but in the animated TV show, Justice League Unlimited, she had a relationship with the superhero The Question. With the original version of The Question, I believe. So, yeah. And in the Arrow TV show, she had a brief thing with Oliver Queen. And the only other non-comic appearance that I know that she made was in the Birds of Prey movie, where she helped Harley Quinn because she was also going to get killed by Black Mask. Same for Harley.
A Bat family member. Regardless, though, this is 23 years after her debut in the comic.
People also say that people theorize that her and Red Hood would get along together because they both kill criminals. This version of Huntress is the one who fully kills criminals.
The Huntress is actually the only character who debuted in the 2012 portion of Arrow, but a lot of other characters appeared in the 2013 portion, which is the second half of Season 1 and the first half of Season 2. This starts with Firefly, who debuted 61 years after his comic book counterpart. If it wasn't for the Scarecrow...
Fun fact, Firefly, when he's first made, was an arsonist. Another fun fact, the Arrow version of Firefly is Garfield Lynch, who, in this universe, wasn't a pyromaniac with a jetpack, but a ex-firefighter who was a pyromaniac who wanted to kill the people who left him, his team, who left him in a burning building. As revenge, he wanted,
That would be the largest gap so far. There's also Brutal, who is a Nightwing villain 26 years after his first comic book appearance. Bronze Tiger, who is a Batman-related character, sometimes villain, sometimes hero or anti-hero, and this is 38 years after his comic book debut. There's also Anatoly Knyazev, who in the comics is a villain named KG Beast, and this is 25 years after his first appearance in the comics.
KG
and finally,
Beast
there's Dollman.
And he works for the government organization, it's a real life thing, it was, or still is, I don't know if it still is, but called the KGB.
Maker, who debuted...
Well, I went back a little bit.
The only character who debuted in the 2012 portion of Arrow, but a lot of other characters appeared in the 2013 portion,
maybe,
which is the second half of Season 1 and the first half of Season 2.
I wanted to see who was
this starts
after
with
KGB.
Firefly, who debuted 61 years after his comic book counterpart.
This is actually
if it wasn't for the Scarecrow, that would be the largest gap so far. There's also Brutal, who is a Nightwing villain 26 years after his first comic book appearance. Bronze Tiger, who is a Batman-related character, sometimes villain, sometimes hero or anti-hero, and this is 38 years after his comic book debut. There's also Anatoly Knyazev, Marvel in the
cover of the
comics is a
comic
villain
book.
named KG
No.
Beast. And
That
this
was
is
Firefly
25
originally
years after
looked
his
like.
first
He
appearance
didn't
in the
do
comics.
arson.
And finally, there's Dollmaker, who debuted only in
Sorry,
2011
Whatever,
on
okay,
one
Mom,
of the
whatever
first
you
issues
do,
of the New 52
since you
Batman
hate gore and creepy shit, stay away from this specific DC character. From their whole family. I'm warning you.
comics. So this is only a 2-year gap, which is one of the shortest. 2014 saw the release of Gotham, and as you might have guessed, a lot of Gotham residents debuted on Gotham for the first time. Before the release of Gotham, though, there was the second half of the second season of Arrow, which saw the debut of Nyssa Rothko 11 years after her comic book debut, as well as the Nightwing villain Torque 18 years after his comic book debut. 4 new characters debuted for the first time in the pilot episode of Gotham, starting with Harvey Bullock, who debuted in the comics for the first time 40 years prior. There's also Renee Montoya, who debuted 22 years prior, but we haven't seen her as the Question yet. There's also Sarah Essen, a character who was important in one storyline, which is...
Fun fact, the actor who played both Penguin and the Riddler for the show, even though they had to play straight characters, were both gay.
Nice to know.
I actually like Penguin's design with the hair at least spiked up because it looked like something that a younger version of Penguin would do.
I'm just saying the suit, that's all that says to me.
He is supposed to be a classy mob boss.
It doesn't say classy mob boss.
The suit in that version, though, was because he wasn't fully a mob boss yet. He was just a umbrella boy for a mob boss who had that suit.
It says gay wannabe mob boss.
No, he wasn't a mob boss even at the time of the first season. That didn't come, I think, until the fourth
Did I say
season.
I said wannabe mob boss.
Well, yeah, he did want to be a mob boss, so that's when he ratted out to the cops. He was a little snitch bitch in the first season for a couple episodes.
Batman Year 1, which came out and was her debut 27 years before her live-action one, and finally a character named Crispus Allen, who works in the GCPD, and eventually in the comics becomes the Spectre, who debuted 14 years prior in the comics, but obviously we haven't seen him as the Spectre just yet. The 8th episode of Gotham saw the debut of Tommy Elliott, aka Hush, but only as a child, not as Hush. We don't see him as Hush until Batwoman a couple years later, but this is the character, so it does count as his debut.
Tommy Elliott was Bruce Wayne's best friend. His parents got into a car accident which killed his father, but Thomas Wayne managed to save his mother. Turns out, though, Tommy hated that because he was the reason that the accident happened, and he wanted both his parents to die to get the money. And then he hated Bruce after Bruce's parents died because Bruce got all that money, and Tommy, according to him, was left with nothing. He then, I think, began to take people's faces and shit
What are you doing, weirdo?
to make a mask of Bruce Wayne. Or is that just the Arkham universe? I haven't read any Hush comic. Any comic with him. I need to get Batman Hush. I watched the movie, it sucked. Because it ruined the fucking shit. But anyways, I need to get the comic book Batman Hush. I believe that was his first appearance, with Batman Hush. Which had a mind-control Superman.
Brother Eye, a machine created by Batman in the comics, debuted for the first time in live action in 2014 in the 4th episode of Season 3 of Arrow, 9 years after its debut in the comics. But it's different here. It isn't created by Bruce Wayne. It's created by Felicity Smoak's ex-boyfriend, an original character named Sheldon Cooper. But still, it does technically count. From here on out, we are going to be flip-flopping back and forth between Gotham and Arrow and other movies and TV shows, because I am going by the precise release dates of these episodes and the movies, not the entire season all at once. For instance, we are starting here with 2 Gotham characters, then back to Arrow, and then back to Gotham, so it is going to be a bit of a mess, but stick with it. So first of all, there's the Electrocutioner, who debuted in the 11th episode of the first season of
She's
Gotham.
missing it.
I'm boredly playing with my hair. You got a problem?
Yes, stop it. And watch the fucking video. I don't do that when I'm bored of your shit.
I'm not bored of it. I'm literally fidgeting.
Stop.
In the year 2015, 34 years
Man,
after his debut in the
Fun
comics.
fact.
There's also
He has a different name in the show than he did in the comics. In the comics, his name is Lester Buchensi. He was a street fighter in the comics. In the show, he was crazy.
I'm like your brother, nice to him.
I want to unpause,
Silver
not look
St.
at her
Cloud,
breath.
who is a love interest to Bruce Wayne, who debuted in Gotham Season 2, Episode 4.
She's a teenager.
In the year 2015, which is 48 years
She's
after he
underage
debuted
in
in the
this
comics.
fucking show.
Back on Arrow, Season 4 used a
Of
Batman
course.
villain in a recurring role, that being Lonnie Machin, aka Anarchy, who debuted in the comics 36
I
years
think she
prior
could be
to
playing
his
like
first
a
appearance
12-year-old in
on
this
Arrow.
show. He was.
Back on Gotham,
remember.
there's Hugo Strange, who debuted for the first time in Season 2,
remember.
Episode 12, and this is actually now 2016.
Anyways,
And this is
you
the
missed.
new record.
You made me miss the fucking character that came after her.
Hugo Strange?
No, not Hugo.
Debut in the
It's a
comics.
little bit
There's
after
also
her.
Silver St. Cloud, who is a love interest to Bruce Wayne, who debuted in Gotham Season 2, Episode 4 in the year 2015, which is 48 years after her
I mean, yeah,
debut
she
in
was
the
young in
comics.
that in the
Back
show.
on Arrow, Season 4 used a Batman villain in a recurring role, that being Lonnie Machin, aka Anarchy, who debuted in the comics 36 years prior to his first appearance.
It was
on
also
Arrow.
rumored.
Back on
They still haven't confirmed it yet, but he may be, since, okay, it was a one-off comic before they restarted the universe again. Or comic that they retconned and say was non-canon, but people still believe that it's canon. To where it's theorized that Lonnie Machin, aka Anarchy, was the Joker's son. And it's still theorized to this day.
Gotham, there's Hugo Strange, who debuted for the first time in Season 2, Episode 12, and this is actually now 2016, and this is the new record. Hugo Strange is actually one of the first Batman villains, debuting all the way back in the year 1940, that being a 76-year gap, but actually, this will be broken pretty soon. Killer Croc kind of had his live-action debut on Gotham in Season 2, Episode 20, but he's never actually called Waylon Jones or Killer Croc, but he kind of does look like Killer Croc, and the behind-the-scenes material does refer to him as Killer Croc at times, at least in certain tweets from the makeup artist of this character. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this video, because just a couple months later, an actual Waylon Jones / Killer Croc did
Hey, I get the
debut
movie.
in the same year in
But he's
Suicide
using-
Squad, that being a 33-year gap. Season 2, Episode 21 of Gotham saw the debut of the Court of Owls and a couple of Talons only 5 years after their debut in the comics. None of the specific Talons ever have been confirmed to be named, so they haven't technically had their live-action debut, but the Court of Owls definitely have. Back on Arrow, Season 5 started, and the first episode saw the debut of Prometheus, a character who is kind of a Batman villain, but he's also kind of a Green Arrow.
He's also way different in the show. He ain't who he is in the comics. But anyways, in the comics, he's an opposite Batman. So I can see him more as a Batman villain than Green Arrow villain. Because how Batman's parents died by a criminal. Prometheus' parents were criminals who got gunned down by the police. So Prometheus went around the world and trained every fighting style to kill, so he could kill the cops. And that's all I know about the character. He also can master moves of almost every hero and can beat almost every hero in the DC Universe. He's basically the DC Universe version of Taskmaster. Taskmaster is a Marvel Comics character.
Villain and a Justice League villain, but I'm including him here regardless. This version of Prometheus is actually given the name Simon Morrison. He doesn't have an identity in the comics, and he's also combined as a character with Vigilante, as he uses the alter ego Adrian Chase as an alias, and also he is a lawyer like Adrian Chase is in the comics. But for the purposes of this video, he does represent Prometheus, a character who debuted in the comics 18 years prior to his first live-action appearance on Arrow. Finally, for 2016, our two new characters, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, who debuted in 2016, which is 73 years after their debut in the comics. They currently hold the record for the second longest gap so far for this video behind Hughes.
I hated watching this part of Gotham that had them in episodes because I always got confused about which Tweedle was which because they look similar. They also had 5. There's 5 Tweedles in the show. They killed one of them because Mad Hatter only needed 4. Then he decided to kill 2 more. Or, no, not that.
How many Tweedles are there altogether?
Nope, actually, no, I messed up. There was 4 in the Gotham show. Mad Hatter made them kill 2 of them, but he only needed 2 for Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I will explain. In the main continuity, there's only 2 Tweedles, Dee and Dum, who are not actually, or have been retconned to where they're not actual twins anymore, to where they're cousins, but they pretend to be twins to mess with people. In other universes, like in the Gotham show, like I said, there's 4. In other universes, like the Arkham universe, this Tweedle died, but he ain't related to the Tweedles by blood. He just has that name. He only appeared in one comic, I believe, which was one of the Arkham Knight prequel comics, and he got killed in that comic. But yeah, canonly, there's only 2 Tweedles. Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Strange. So while they have a huge gap,
so
they
we
never
only
actually
need
held
to
that
T-Dum
record.
now.
Yeah.
2017 didn't actually introduce that many
I don't like
characters,
calling
only
him Tweedle.
4, starting with the Ventriloquist, who debuted in the first episode of Season 4.
And fun fact, this is not Arnold Wesker. This is Arthur Penn, the character name is. Arnold Wesker would not make a quote-unquote first live-action appearance until the Titans TV show, where he was seen in a hallucination as a dead body in one of the episodes of the first season, I believe.
Of Gotham. This character's name was actually changed from Arnold Wesker to Arthur Penn. I'm not sure about the reason, but it is technically the same character. I mean, just look at them side to side. They're the same, and this character has a 30-year gap. There's also Sophia Falcone, who debuted 2 episodes later with a 20-year gap, as well as Professor Pig, who debuted 3 episodes after Sophia, 10 years after
Also, warning. Like how I told you not to look into the doll maker or any of his family? Same with Professor Pig, aka Laszlo Valentine. It's some gory ass shit. Some nasty ass shit.
Okay, I'll figure it out eventually anyway, because I was going to get into the Batman comic book anyway.
That also means don't play, if you ever play my Batman Arkham Knight game, skip his side mission. Don't do his side, no, you will not like it.
You have me watching the Blood with your war shit anyway, so what's the difference?
It's worse. Both of them are worse.
You forget I can sit and listen to her head was cut off.
Mom.
Her ear was cut off.
No, Mom. It's worse than that. This ain't just gore. This is above grinding type of torture porn. Some versions of the characters are. I'm the horror fan who can't get traumatized by this shit, and they traumatize me.
Okay, that has to be nasty. Now back to the video.
Yes.
in the comics. And finally, for 2017, is Onyx Adams, appearing in the third
Nope.
episode of
I don't
season
know
6
that one.
of Arrow, which is 32 years
Finally,
after her
character
first
I don't
appearance
fucking
in the
know.
comics. 2018 saw the release of Titans, which does feature a couple Bat Family members, and also the Elseworlds Arrowverse crossover, which takes place partially in Gotham City, as well as Gotham Season 4, which takes place entirely in Gotham City, from which we only have one character debut being Man-Bat in Season 4, Episode 22.
And not really Man-Bat, since he ain't Kirk Langstrom. He was a patient at Indian Hill, which was a testing site waste dump that Hugo Strange was using to test our people and bring them back from the dead. He just called Man-Bat.
It looks like it's got boobies.
No, it's a he. Once you see the face, you'll tell. But anyways, he's just called Man-Bat, but he has bat wings. That's the reason why he's called Man-Bat. He's literally...
Being 48 years after their comic book counterparts, and I should mention that they're never actually named Man-Bat or Kirk Langstrom, but that's only because this is only a cameo. They were supposed to appear more in Season 5, but they never did, but this would have went on to be Kirk Langstrom, at least probably. It would have been either the real Man-Bat or a prototype version of the character. On Titans, in the first episode, Amy Rohrback appeared, a character who is a supporting character to Nightwing, or at least she was in the early 2000s. More importantly is, a couple episodes later, the debut of Jason Todd, aka Robin, aka Red Hood, in the year 2018, which is 35 years after his debut in the comics.
Fun fact. During a certain point of the comics, Red Hood...
You're gay fag running around in our underwear anymore.
What?
You heard me?
No.
I said at least as Red Hood, we don't look like a gay fag running around in our underwear anymore.
Technically, he has pants in this version.
That was technically my point. We don't look like a gay fag.
No, I'm talking about in this version of the Robin suit. There's pants. It's a live action TV show.
That was my point.
You can't. This ain't Red Hood. This is Robin suit. You can't do the fucking, the short shorts in live action no more. But it ain't the 16s no more.
Oh, they won't allow that anymore?
No. It ain't the 16s no more, Mom. But anyways, there was a point of time where Red Hood didn't kill criminals when he worked with the Bat
They can't all
family.
run around doing drugs like hippies with all titties hanging out, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, not anymore, Mom. They don't allow... Well, with the women, maybe. They may allow on TV shows. But men can't... Men in superhero shows can't wear tight spandex that don't have no pants.
That's stupid. Just saying.
Robin basically was wearing underwear, but they just call it short shorts.
Yeah, in the 60s.
In the
comics.
Before they gave him... No, Mom. It took the third Robin to give him pants. To give him actual pants. I swear to God that Jason Todd didn't even get a new outfit. That freaking Bruce Wayne just threw him Dick Grayson's old outfit. Same bloodstains and all.
Is that what he did?
I don't fucking know, but that's why I swear, but it's still the same fucking outfit, just a little bit different. Emo ass motherfucker in this show, though. To be honest, I kind of hated his. I couldn't finish. I'm happy that I haven't watched the rest of the show past season 1, and I haven't finished season 1 because the fucking YouTube shorts honestly make me hate Jason in some scenes, but then make me feel sorry for him in other scenes where I haven't actually seen. So I need to go back to this show at some point.
The same version of
I want to make
Jason
you watch
Todd,
the show with me, and we're going to do the writing down shit again.
And Red Hood, as he debuted as Red Hood just a couple years later in season 3.
You see?
Just the
That's
next episode,
cool
being episode 6 of Titans, we saw the debut of a character named Tony Zuko, the man who killed Dick Grayson's parents in the comics. A story that came out all the way back in the year 1940. This being 2018, that's a 78-year
finally
comic book debut.
The guy I was
and
talking about like ages ago, it feels like, since we got to Sal Maroni.
Finally, from the Elseworlds Arrowverse crossover in 2018, there's Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, who debuted 12 years prior to this in the comics, but that's only the revamped version of the character, the one that this one is based off of. The original Catherine Kane, also Batwoman with the same name and alter ego, debuted 62 years before 2018.
And in the original version, she wasn't related to Bruce Wayne, I believe, because she and the original Batgirl were made to prove a point, and that point was that Batman and Robin were not gay. Since someone made a book talking about how comics and other stuff was going to make your children gay because that person seen it as a sin. And then part of the book, it had Batman and Robin, and it mentioned how they slept in the same bed and how they were two men.
Because that's how it comes off.
And Robin was a grown man, kind of. In some parts of it looks like basically, even though he really wasn't, because like a teenager, I believe. Or some comics, he became Robin when he was a teenager. Others, he became Robin when he was like 6 or 7. So yeah, so that's why they made Batwoman and Batgirl to prove that they were not gay. And nowadays you just got people shipping Batman with the Joker. Why can't Batman not just get out of the being gay part? Who knows? They also ship Batman with Superman.
Because him and Robin are gay.
Robin ain't gay. Well, it depends which Robin you're talking about. There is a gay Robin. It's not Dick Grayson, though.
If not, he's secretly dating Catwoman.
No.
Yeah. Either Batman's having sex with Robin.
No.
He's having sex with Joker. Or he's fucking Catwoman.
Ain't no secretly. Catwoman is one of the on and off again relationships with females in the comics. He has multiple on and off female relationships. He also won't. He has a thing for one woman, but won't date her because if he says no dating in the league, because if anyone finds out, he don't want because even though he has a thing for Wonder Woman, she's also his friend, and he don't want her to get hurt because it explained in a Justice League animated episode for the Justice League show. He said, if any of my enemies finds out that I have someone I care about, they're going to track that person down to get to me. And then he said, and I work better alone. I'm like, bitch, you have like 30 fucking orphans lined up to be Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dick Grayson, though, is dated multiple women. The two that he's mainly known for dating were Starfire and Barbara Gordon. I'm sad that he ain't with Starfire no more. Or Barbara, really. I think he ain't with Barbara no more. He may be. Then there's Jason Todd, who is currently dating Artemis. Named after the Greek goddess. That version of Artemis. The Wonder Woman version. I have to say the Wonder Woman character Artemis because there's also a Artemis who has a bow and arrow. Who's like a Green Arrow type character. In the Young Justice show. But she was originally a villain in the comics. The other Artemis that ain't the Wonder Woman character. Then there's Damian Wayne, who... We skipped 2 Robins, but I'll go back to them later. There's Damian Wayne, 2 main Robins. The last one is Damian Wayne, he's young, but he's with the villain Flatline. Then there's...
We may get through this.
Hang on. And then there's the technical 4th Robin, Stephanie Brown, who dated Tim Drake for some time. And then there's the bisexual Robin, Tim Drake, who dated Stephanie Brown. I believe Barbara Gordon at some point, maybe. And now he's dating his old high school best friend. Yeah. And also Superboy's gay too now. Not Connor Kent Superboy, but Jonathan Kent Superboy, who before they made him gay and grow up, he was literally a fucking child just teaming up with Damian Wayne. we don't even get ready to see Jonathan Kent grow up, really. But anyways.
Moving on to 2019, we have
I'm
a
done with
debut
my
of
rant.
the much-beloved Batwoman TV show, and all but one of the new debuts from this year comes from
Season
that
1
show.
and Season 2
The
were
first of which,
okay.
however, is not from Batwoman, it's from Gotham, as Season 5 of Gotham did come out in 2019, that being a
No.
character named Magpie, 33 years
That's the
after her
child
debut
version
in
of
the
Magpie.
comics.
Oh, that's the
Moving
way
on
they
to
got
Batwoman, we
banged into the table and killed by Sophia Falcone
In the
in
Penguin,
the Penguin
show.
Okay.
In Gotham, she is a literal little kid who... She's a child. I'm not kidding. She's not a midget. She's an actual child who would replace stuff with replica bombs. That's her thing in the comics as well. Replace shiny shit with replica bombs. Her hideout had a lot of bombs, and Penguin and Catwoman team up to stop her, and Penguin ends up blowing her up with one of her own replica bombs. It was, I believe, with the 4th season that she appeared in.
Start with a character named Betty Kane, who is a bit complicated here, as her character counterpart here is actually Mary Hamilton, whose name is obviously not the same, but Betty Kane in the comics, his middle name is Mary, and she's like the sidekick. She's also the cousin of the original Batwoman. It's definitely changed here.
In the first version, Betty Kane was Batgirl, but then they remade her later on in one of the other universes to be the hero Flamebird, who was a Robin fanboy, who is the cousin, who was originally the cousin of Kate Kane. I don't know if they're still related or not anymore in the comics, because I don't keep up with that version with the Flamebird character or that version of Batgirl.
Okay.
Drastically, but according to the DC Wiki, these two are counterparts, and she debuted 58 years prior in the comics. There's also Batwoman's dad, Jacob Kane, who only debuted 10 years prior to his debut on Batwoman. There's also her sister, Alice, who also debuted 10 years prior. There's also Batwing, aka Luke Fox, who debuted only in the year 2013, so that's 6 years prior to his debut here, as well as Julia Pennyworth, the daughter of Alfred Pennyworth, who debuted 38 years prior to her debut on Batwoman. 2020 saw the release of Birds of Prey, or Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, or Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which does take place in Gotham City.
Only has
and
unfortunately
saw
two
the debut
characters from the...
Cassandra Cain. It's unfortunate because this is an awful adaptation of this character.
Yeah, Cassandra Cain in the comics was the daughter of Lady Shiva and David Kane. And no, this Kane is not related to Kate Kane. Different name, different last name spelt. One's with a K, one's with a C, I believe. But anyways, David Kane and Lady Shiva got together, hooked up, fucked, boom. Two of the world's greatest assassins, aside from Deathstroke and Deadshot. And they gave birth to Cassandra Cain, who later on became...
Who's your dad now?
David Kane.
And who's that?
That's his name. He's an assassin for hire in the DC universe.
Lady Shiva's the hot Korean martial arts lady.
Yeah. David Kane is a white American assassin.
Okay.
Okay. But anyways, they gave birth to Cassandra Cain, who was a Bat girl. Then she became Black Bat for some time. And then she decided to become the hero Orphan.
You know you can sit down and tell everyone else this too.
I am. And no, I'm not kidding. Her hero name that she chose after being Black Bat and Batgirl was Orphan. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Mm-hmm. She's a member of the Bat family who Batman takes in orphans to be his psychic, and her name is... People kind of hate how she chose that name. She also had her own comic book run during the No Man's arc, where Gotham City was let's just say some bad shit happened in Gotham City, so the rest of the U.S. basically boarded it up and cut it away from the U.S. from the where it is. It's in New Jersey, Gotham City, New Jersey. They just don't admit it, but it is actually New Jersey. But yeah, and this
a lot of comic books and shit, wouldn't it?
what?
To actually learn about the Bat Family, that's
Yes,
a lot of comic
yes,
books and shit,
over
wouldn't it?
100. There'll be over 100. Because how many different continuities there are. But anyways, this version of her is nothing like the character from the comics. This version of her is a thief who's a little girl who don't know how to fight, and mother probably ain't Lady Shiva because, like I said, she don't know how to fight even. They basically just made a random character and decided to throw her name to have some. They decided to throw the name Cassandra Cain onto the character to have some reference to the comics. Because they didn't want to make an original name. The other character the other ones, though, who appear in this movie, who he's going to talk about, actually kind of are comic accurate.
Is that Harley Quinn?
Yes. She just cut her hair, but this was after her breakup with the Joker in this universe. She also got a hyena. Not named Button Lou, but she got one hyena in this movie. They don't appear again in this whole universe. So I don't know what happened to it. I mean, in the movies, maybe in the comics. But this universe is over now. But she named the hyena Bruce. She said, and when Cassandra Cain said Bruce, Harley Quinn said, yeah, after that Richard Wayne guy.
Character who debuted 21 years prior to her awful adaptation on Birds of Prey. There's also Black Mask, who surprisingly
To where I have to say, if you ask me which Birds of Prey is better, the movie or TV show, I have to say, with certain parts, I like the 2012 TV show more.
Year 2020.
Fun fact, this is not the first live action Black Mask to appear. But it is the first version of Roman Sionis to appear in live action. No, wait, no, it may be the first version of Black Mask. No, it ain't. He missed a character, I believe, in Gotham. Which was because Gotham stopped doing this during 2020. But that character was Richard Sionis, who was Roman's dad, who, let's just say, Roman hated his father, and at some point of time, Roman Sionis in the comics destroyed his father's coffin and made his mask out of the wood from that coffin. During a point of time, that mask got permanently burnt to Roman's face. So yeah. But that's not how the mask is in this film. It's a mask. It's basically a helmet in the movie. But I was letting you know that he did miss a character. 2 characters. The Puzzler, but that's because they count him as a Superman villain still. Even though the villain in the 1960 show don't act like him. That Superman villain. But I was letting you know that he did forget a character. At least that one character. So yeah. Also, if you don't mention any other characters, sometimes it's because they also could have also been originally made for the show, but Richard Sionis was made before Gotham.
So then, a prototype version of Black Mask, who was called The Mask, and was Black Mask's father, who debuted on Gotham. But it doesn't count because it's not the same character, it's his father. Black Mask debuted 35 years before his debut in Birds of Prey. And finally, for 2020 is Nocturna, who debuted in Batwoman Season 1, Episode 13, which is 37 years after her debut in the comics. 2021 started...
You see, I didn't know that Nocturna, aka Natalia Knight, was in the Batwoman show. I didn't know that. Because, like I said, I only watched Season 1 and parts of Season 3. I watched almost all of Season 1, and then I stopped watching it, so I went back to watching it before they took it off to CW.
Natalia Knight.
vampire chick. Basically, that's all I can say. But anyway, before I went back
So I'd be into her probably is what you're telling me.
Yeah. But anyways, before they took that show off of the CW app, the last season was season 3. I never watched the whole thing because I stopped midway through the Mrs. Freeze episode. The only 4 episodes of season 3 I watched was the Mad Hatter and Killer Croc episodes, which were good.
For the couple, Batwoman debuts, starting with Enigma, the Riddler's daughter, who debuted 15 years prior to this in the comics. Here she's given the name Evelyn Rhyme and isn't actually the Riddler's daughter, which is a name that she doesn't have in the comics. There's also Stephanie Brown, another pretty bad adaptation of a character of one of the Batgirls, like Cassandra Cain the year prior, and she debuted 29 years after
she was Robin for a
comics,
bit,
but
and
obviously
then
we haven't seen her
shot
spoiler,
and
Batgirl, or even
went
Robin
back to being who she originally
so far.
was.
Along with Stephanie Brown was her father, Arthur Brown, aka Cluemaster, who is a bit of an older character, debuting 55 years before his debut in live action.
Fun fact. Cluemaster reappeared in live action again in the crappy Gotham Knights TV show. Which also, I'm going to tell you who has that character appeared. So,
21
yeah.
also saw the release of The Suicide Squad, which gave us the first live-action adaptation of Polka Dot Man, 59 years after his debut in the comics,
because this
as
was
well
before
as Calendar
Gotham
Man,
Knights came out.
63 years after his debut in the comics,
So
as
if
well
you remade
as
the
Ratcatcher,
video,
33 years
they
after
have
his first
at
appearance in the
least
comics. But we could assume that his name
2
was
new
changed,
characters,
since
and
we
one of
don't
them
hear his
probably
name, but his daughter is Cleo
older than
Kazo,
the other
and
one.
his name is Otis Flanagan in the comics, so I'm assuming his name here is also Kazo, so it might be Otis Kazo or something else completely. And the last couple from 2021 is from Titans Season 3, starting with the third Robin, Tim Drake, who debuted in the first episode of Season 3.
Who wasn't technically Robin for some time.
But we haven't seen him yet as Robin.
I think I managed to